comments as brief as possible. In a similar fashion to the last meeting, I would like to remind our members and tell our visitors that our mission remains focused on educating our community about local politics and ensuring active participation in civic engagement. We aim to relay vital information back to our networks, including churches and organizations, to foster an informed constituency. Before we move forward, I would like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt condolences and respect to the bereaved families within our Democratic community. Many of you are aware of the passing of our fellow Democrat, Mr. Dan Ellis, and many among us were present to honor his life and legacy during his service. I ask that we continue to keep the Ellis family lifted in our thoughts and prayers during this difficult season. I will also ask that we continue to keep our very own Secretary McConnell and her family in our prayers as well. On that same day and at that same hour, her mother's memorial service was being held. That is why many of you saw myself and several leaders of the African American Caucus depart the service early as we sought to stand beside and support our secretary during her family's time of grief. And I would be remiss if I did not personally acknowledge Secretary McConnell for her unwavering hard work, dedication, and commitment to this caucus and this community. Even while carrying the weight of personal sorrow, she never stepped away from her responsibility to serve others. That level of faithfulness, strength, and selflessness is the true mark of a devoted public servant and a dedicated member of this caucus. As you all know, there's a lot at stake this November. I've talked before about how important the African American vote is and how important it is for us to connect with each other. You know how much I care about protecting our right to vote. I also know that many of you appreciate the information we share at our monthly meetings. Now, I know there are some folks who feel like leadership, maybe even me, gets this group a little too stirred up sometimes. Some believe we ought to just accept things the way they are and keep it moving. And then there are others who feel that because I'm running for office, I ought to tiptoe around certain subjects and be careful not to say too much. Well, let me say this respectfully. I hear every concern, I truly do, but I was not raised to trade my values for comfort. Nor was I taught to water down truth just to make people feel convenient. I don't believe our people should have to shrink themselves, silence themselves, or squeeze into somebody else's mold just to be accepted in rooms we helped build in the first place. See, the reality is our Democratic Party is facing challenges on every level, locally, statewide, and nationally. And if we're honest this evening, pretending everything is fine has never fixed a single problem. You can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. That's why we structured today's meeting the way we did, not for confusion, not for division, but for clarity. Because an informed voter is a powerful voter. We want our community to understand the importance of their vote, to know what's happening around them, and to recognize that their voice still matters. As president of the African American Caucus, I believe it is both our responsibility and our duty to share the concerns, perspectives, and realities of the black community within this community, and to make sure our candidates, who we hope to see elected, know how we feel. That is precisely why we welcome them here tonight. Our purpose is not to antagonize, criticize, or browbeat anyone, but rather to ensure that our candidates are informed by the truth of what our communities are experiencing and expecting. Through honest dialogue, mutual respect, and collective understanding, we can work together toward meaningful progress and position ourselves for multiple victories in November. What I need our candidates to understand is this right here. In this season, folks ain't just listening to your speeches, they're watching your steps. People are paying attention to how you move when the cameras ain't rolling. They noticing who you laugh with behind closed doors, who you stand beside when it's convenient, and who you disappear from when the political winds start shifting. See, in today's climate, the African American community ain't simply moved by polished talking points and election season handshakes. Our people are studying consistency. We are studying character. We are studying loyalty. Because one thing about black folks in the South, we can recognize when somebody is genuinely with us, and we can also recognize when somebody is just passing through looking for a vote and a photo opportunity. Now let me say this carefully and respectfully. There is no one single person who speaks for every African American voter in Franklin County. We are not a monolith. We are church folks, educators, laborers, business owners, retirees, young activists, old school Democrats, and independent thinkers. But while our opinion may not line up the same, one thing our people do agree on is authenticity. The caucus supports the core values of the Democratic Party, and we support many of the candidates sitting before us tonight. But because we want you to succeed, we have a responsibility to tell you the truth. And the truth is this: our people are paying attention to the small things now, the intimate things, the things some consultants may tell you don't matter. We watching to see if you treat people the same in every room. We watching to see if your convictions change depending on who's sitting at the table. We watching to see if you only claim certain leaders when it benefits you politically, but create distance when you think association may cost you something. See, we'll start calling you sometime in a New York minute if we sense crooked and self-centered behavior. And I'm just going to tell you plainly, black voters in Franklin County can smell political perfume from a mile away. We know the difference between somebody who came to serve the people and somebody who just came to campaign around the people. So let me tell you, this caucus gets called from the black community asking specific questions. When the caucus chose the Council 2 meeting for political kickoff, we received a lot of concerns about why they were scheduled on those particular dates. See, we don't like being played or shunned. Now, I smoothed it over with many supporters by expressing the fact that I did not feel as if those candidates were trying to leave the caucus out. But there may be a common denominator. See, I was kind of swift in middle school and elementary math. We talked a lot about common denominators in math class and how to recognize them. But today I'm not using it in the math term, though. I'm referring to a feature shared by all members of a group. I'll just ask our candidates to be mindful of our common denominators, and they are beneficial or detrimental to your campaign outside of the $500 and $1,000 donations. See, sometimes people will utilize you to carry out vindictive plans that never even concern you. And we don't need that in today's political climate, especially if we are to see victories in November. My brothers and sisters, let's dovetail in something else close to our hearts as African Americans. That being the celebration of Juneteenth. Many of us in the African American Caucus are deeply involved, serving not only here but also on the Juneteenth committee. Juneteenth or June 19th is more than just a day off. It's a sacred day. It marks the true end of the slavery in the United States. When on June 19, 1865, the Emancipation Proclamation was finally enforced in Galveston, Texas. We call it Black Independence Day because it commemorates the freedom of the last enslaved people. We don't take Juneteenth lightly, disregarding its importance or using it as a cheap political stunt. It's a direct insult to our community. It's like turning our faces into a circus act, and we won't stand for it. That's why I'm calling on every member of this caucus to stand with our president, Reverend Rose Gill, on June 20th. Let's show our support for her tireless work and dedication in ensuring we have a meaningful celebration year after year. Let's honor our history, celebrate our freedom, and continue to fight for justice and equality. This year we are able to commemorate it on a Saturday in hopes to ensure greater participation. See, we clear our schedules for Juneteenth. We don't double book on Juneteenth because this day is sacred. So be sure to let people looking to serve our community know this. So in summary, I just want to encourage our candidates this evening to fight the good fight. Knowing you will have the support of our community if you follow the scripture of Matthew 10 and 16. Matthew 10 and 16, where Jesus tells his disciples, "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." This instruction emphasizes balance and shrewdness and discernment with gentle, guileless behavior while navigating a hostile world. See, sheep among wolves represents vulnerability in a hostile environment. Wise as serpent encourages being cautious, discerning, and alert to dangers, acting strategically to avoid unnecessary traps. Harmless as doves instructs followers to maintain integrity, purity, and peaceful intention, never stooping to malicious tactics. The caucus is here to advocate for our community, but to also help our candidates navigate a path to a victory. But we can't help you if you're guided by an old playbook, an outdated playbook leading you to distance yourself from community activists who don't always agree with the status quo, a playbook that leads to divisive, manipulative, and vindictive ploys against certain individuals that may be able to assist you in your endeavors, a playbook that still relies on self-proclaimed big wheels and straw bosses. No, 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 because we're rooted in what we call the good book, that holy and righteous book, not a checkbook or obsolete, outdated playbook. We go by that book that got 4 gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That book that talks about a meek and humble lamb. That book that talks about being a royal priesthood. That book that teaches us when in battle, put on the whole armor of God. That book that illustrates the underdog story of David slaying Goliath. Candidates, throw away the hand-me-down playbook and pick up the book I utilize. Checkbook won't help you treat people right, and the playbook won't get you authenticity. But that book labeled the Holy Bible will lead you correctly. So today the caucus once again extends the olive branch. We are telling every candidate in this room that we are willing to help, willing to support, and willing to work together for victory. But hear me clearly tonight. We will not compromise our value just to make folks comfortable. We will not grow silent when justice is on the line. We will always stand and fight for civil justice, for fairness, and for the dignity and respect of every person within the party and community. Because this is not the season for egos. This is not the hour for blackballing, backroom politics, or personal vendettas. The people are hurting too much for us to be divided over pride. We need victories, we need leadership, and we need candidates with enough courage to stand up for the downtrodden, speak for the outcast, and defend the very people others tried to push aside in silence. And I still believe with all my heart that when we come together in truth, when we walk in wisdom, and when we stand on principles instead of politics, there's nothing we cannot accomplish together in November. Our meeting is now called to order, and we will ask Ms. Armenta, each and our parliamentarian, to give us a word of prayer.
May we all